Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
When I was 17, my life was already a mess. My parents' divorce had carved a jagged line through our family, leaving my mom, my younger brother Ethan, and me to pick up the pieces. Mom, desperate for a fresh start, found a house in a small Pennsylvania town called Harrow's End, a place so quiet it felt like the world had forgotten it. The house was a sprawling Victorian relic, all creaking floors and peeling wallpaper, bought dirt cheap at an estate sale. Mom called it a steal, charmed by its wraparound porch and stained glass transoms. I wasn't so sure. The moment we stepped inside, the air felt heavy, like the house was holding its breath, waiting to see what we'd do. Harrow's End was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, and the locals eyed newcomers like we were invaders. The house sat on the edge of town, bordered by a sagging iron fence and a yard choked with weeds. It had 3 stories, a widow's walk, and a labyrinth of rooms that seemed to shift when you weren't looking. The realtor had glossed over its history, just said it had been empty for years and needed a little love. Mom, still raw from the divorce, saw it as a project to keep her mind off Dad. Ethan, only 9, didn't care much either way. He just wanted his old life back. I didn't have the heart to tell him that wasn't happening. The house had a room nobody wanted. It was on the 2nd floor, at the far end of a long, dim hallway, lined with faded portraits of people who looked like they'd never smiled a day in their lives. The room was small, windowless, with a single bare bulb dangling from the ceiling like a hanged man's noose. A built-in cabinet, its wood warped and stained, was set into one wall, its door sealed shut. Mom said it was probably for linens or storage, but the handle wouldn't budge, like it was nailed or glued. She planned to use the room for boxes we hadn't unpacked yet, but even she avoided it. Our dog, Rusty, a scruffy mutt who'd followed Ethan everywhere since he was a toddler, refused to go near that end of the hall. He'd stop at the top of the stairs, tail tucked, ears pricked, growling at nothing. Or so we thought. The first few weeks were uneventful, just the usual chaos of moving. Boxes everywhere, furniture shoved into corners, Mom cursing the ancient plumbing. I was stuck in a bedroom next to the hallway, with a lumpy mattress and a view of the neighbor's overgrown hedge. Ethan got the room across from mine, painted a sickly green that made him complain. Mom took the master bedroom downstairs, claiming it was closer to the kitchen and her command center. We were all trying to pretend this was normal, but the house didn't feel right. It wasn't just the drafts or the way the floors groaned underfoot. It was like the house was watching us, sizing us up. About a month in, I started hearing the scratching. It wasn't the skittering of mice or the creak of settling wood. These were long, slow scratches, deliberate, like someone dragging their fingernails down the inside of the wall. It came from behind my bed, which shared a wall with that sealed cabinet in the hallway. The first time I heard it, I froze, my heart hammering so loud I thought it'd drown out the sound. I waited, straining to listen. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was rhythmic, patient, like whatever was making it had all the time in the world. I banged on the wall hard enough to rattle the headboard. The scratching stopped. Silence. I told myself it was nothing, an animal maybe, or the house shifting. But the next night, it was back, always around midnight, just as I was drifting off. Scratch, scratch, slow and steady. I started sleeping with a flashlight. Not that it helped. The sound wasn't loud, but it was intimate, like it was meant for me. I told Mom about it over breakfast one morning. She was bleary-eyed, stirring coffee that had gone cold. "It's the pipes, Caleb," she said, not looking up. "Old houses make noises. You'll get used to it." "Pipes don't sound like nails," I said. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "We'll get an exterminator if it's rats, okay?" It wasn't rats. I knew it in my bones. Rats didn't scratch like they were trying to tell you something. Ethan started acting strange around then too. He'd always been a happy kid, all giggles and questions, but the house seemed to dim him. He stopped playing outside, stopped talking as much. One night, I caught him staring at the hallway from the living room, his eyes glassy. "What's wrong, buddy?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "It's loud at night," he whispered. I felt a chill. "You hear it too?" He nodded, clutching Rusty's collar. "It's in the walls." I didn't push him. I didn't want to scare him more than he already was. But I started keeping my door open at night, listening for him. Rusty wasn't much help either. The dog had started avoiding the upstairs entirely, whining whenever we tried to coax him up. Once, I saw him standing at the base of the stairs, hackles raised, barking at the hallway above. Mom said he was just adjusting to the move. I wasn't so sure. One night, I decided to catch the thing making the noise. I was done convincing myself it was nothing. I stayed up, sitting cross-legged on my bed, a baseball bat across my lap. The house was quiet except for the usual creaks and the faint hum of the fridge downstairs. I checked my phone. 2:12 a.m. Nothing. My eyes were heavy, the darkness pressing in. Then, at 2:14 a.m., exactly because I glanced at my phone, I heard it. Scratch. Scratch. Closer this time, right at the head of my bed. My skin prickled. I stood, heart pounding, and knocked on the wall. Silence. I held my breath, waiting. Then, clear as anything, I heard it. A whisper, not in the room but from inside the wall. "I see you." My legs turned to jelly. I stumbled back, tripping over my sneakers, and bolted out of the room. I didn't stop until I was downstairs, shaking, curled up on the couch with Rusty pressed against me. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go back to my room for days. Things got worse after that. The lights started flickering, not just in my room but all over the house. Not a quick blink, but a slow, deliberate pulse, like the house was breathing. Rusty stopped eating, his food bowl untouched for days. Mom took him to the vet, who said he was fine, just stressed. But I saw the fear in that dog's eyes. He knew something we didn't. Then Ethan started sleepwalking. I'd find him in the middle of the night, standing in the hallway, facing that sealed cabinet. Just standing there, eyes closed, lips moving like he was whispering to someone. The first time it happened, I shook him awake, and he blinked at me like he didn't know where he was. "I was dreaming," he mumbled. "Someone was calling me." "Who?" I asked, my mouth dry. He didn't answer, just shuffled back to bed. It happened again the next night, and the night after that. Mom found him once too, and her face went pale. She didn't say anything, but I saw her glance at the cabinet, like it was a coiled snake. We tried locking Ethan's door at night, but he'd still get out. Once I caught him trying to pry the cabinet open with a butter knife, his small hands trembling. I yanked it away and dragged him back to bed, my heart racing. "Don't go near that thing," I told him, sharper than I meant to. He just nodded, eyes wide. Mom called a priest from the local church, a gray-haired man named Father Daniels who smelled like mothballs and carried a worn Bible. He walked through the house, sprinkling holy water and muttering prayers. When he reached the hallway, he paused, staring at the cabinet. "This house is old," he said finally. Old places hold on to things. What kind of things? Mom asked, her voice tight. He didn't answer, just kept praying. The scratching didn't stop. If anything, it got louder, more insistent. I started sleeping on the couch, my bat beside me. Ethan refused to go upstairs alone. Mom looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, dark circles under her eyes, her hands shaking when she poured coffee. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Friday, cold for October, the wind howling outside. We were all asleep, or trying to be, when a deep, thudding bang shook the house. It wasn't a creak or a groan. It was like something massive had slammed against the wall hard enough to rattle the windows. The sound came from upstairs. Mom screamed my name from her room. "Caleb, get Ethan!" I was already running, my bare feet slapping the cold floor. Ethan's door was open, his bed empty, the blankets in a heap. My stomach dropped. I sprinted to the hallway, my flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. There he was, at the end of the hall, facing the cabinet. The cabinet that had never opened, the one we'd given up on months ago. Its door was wide open, a black void swallowing the light. Ethan was leaning in, his small body half inside, like something was pulling him. "Ethan!" I shouted, grabbing his arm and yanking him back. The moment I did, the cabinet door slammed shut with a force that shook the wall, dust raining from the ceiling. Ethan woke up screaming, tears streaming down his face. "It was calling me," he sobbed. "It wanted me to come inside." Mom reached us, her face white as a sheet. She pulled Ethan into her arms, rocking him, but her eyes were on the cabinet. "What the hell is in there?" she whispered. I didn't know, but I wasn't waiting to find out. The next day, we bought plywood and nails from the hardware store. I hammered the cabinet shut myself, driving nails until my arms ached. We moved Ethan into Mom's room, and I took the guest room downstairs. Nobody went near the hallway anymore. The scratching didn't stop, though. If anything, it got angrier, louder, like whatever was in there was pissed we'd sealed it off. I left for college the next year, a state school a few hours away. I never spent another night in that house. Mom and Ethan stayed, but they were different after that night. Ethan stopped sleepwalking, but he'd wake up crying, saying he dreamed of a voice calling his name. Mom started drinking more, her laughter replaced by a hollow look. She sold the house 5 years later, after Ethan graduated high school. The new owners didn't stay long. Nobody did. Years later, over Thanksgiving at Mom's new apartment, she told me something that made my blood run cold. She'd heard things too, back in Harrow's End, not just the scratching. One night, walking past the cabinet, she'd heard breathing, slow, heavy, like someone standing right behind the door. She never told me because she didn't want to scare me, but she knew, same as me, that something was in that house, something that didn't want us there. I still check real estate listings sometimes, out of some morbid curiosity. The house is still there, its Victorian charm polished up for new buyers. It goes up for sale every couple of years. People move in, full of hope, then leave just as fast. I wonder if they hear the scratching too. I wonder if they've opened that cabinet. And I wonder what's still waiting inside.